is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop. Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me. Gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy!
Long education.
Yeah, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
And welcome to it, my friends. It is Tuesday here on the Steve Gruber Show. Tuesday, and appreciate you jumping on board with us. If you'd like to join the conversation, it's 888-900-9966, 888-900-9966. We can have a conversation about those renewable portfolio standards. By the way, that study will be published here on stevegruber.com. At stevegruber.com, by the way, you can go there and listen live. Click the Listen Live button no matter where you go. To work, wherever, running around the house, kick the show on. You can also put it on your smartphone with Radio Pup. Find WJIM, Radio Pup, and take us in the car, wherever you may travel. And we'll put that portfolio stand up there for you to see. Plus all the different musings and writings we write all the time, and different columns can all be found at stevegruber.com. I appreciate your support. As we said a little bit earlier, we'll get in a little more detail now. Hillary Clinton's safe was not safe at all. In July, State Department officials installed a safe at the office of Attorney David Kendall after the government determined some of Clinton's emails may have contained classified information, but it said last week the safe wasn't suitable for so-called top-secret, sensitive, compartmentalized information known as TS/SCI information, which the government has said was found in some messages. The State Department's position now underscores how even the nation's diplomatic apparatus did not anticipate Clinton, the current frontrunner for the Democratic nomination, to be sending and receiving highly sensitive information on her private email server while Secretary of State. Questions about her use of such a server have at times dominated her White House run and will again today. Her attorney Kendall and a Clinton spokesman did not return calls yesterday. They kind of went underground when this story broke. It shows how badly the wires are crossed between the department, between state and others. The State Department says it is unaware of whether anyone's security clearances were suspended pending an investigation into possible improper handling of classified information. One of several questions proxied by Senator Charles Grassley of Iowa. Such an action is not uncommon amid such classification reviews, said Bradley Moss, a Washington attorney who deals regularly with security clearance matters. Since then, the State Department has indicated through Freedom of Information Act releases of Clinton's emails that dozens of messages have passed through. And what a mess that has turned out to be, eh? What a complete mess with Hillary Clinton there. All right. Sorry. Alex, I don't see what you have there. All right. Let's see here. Moving along, back to the Planned Parenthood conversation we were having. Planned Parenthood's president will tell a House committee today that she is proud of the work her organization does, even as the organization is embroiled in a controversy over videos depicting the sale of fetal tissue. I'd be proud too. Cecile Richards will testify before the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee. Later this morning, it will be her first appearance since the scandal erupted this past July. The 10 videos released so far by a group called the Center for Medical Progress capture Planned Parenthood's officials casually describing how they sometimes obtain tissue from aborted fetuses for researchers. In one video, In one video, a doctor for a Planned Parenthood tissue harvesting partner appears to admit a baby's heart actually is still beating. At times following abortions, and an ex-procurement tech gives a first-person account of watching a baby's heart beat before she dissects its brain. And people actually have the nerve to criticize Carly Fiorina. Planned Parenthood opponents say the videos show the groups consistently breaking the law and selling baby parts for money. In prepared testimony for her appearance, Richard says Planned Parenthood is proud of its limited role in supporting fetal tissue research. She said just 1% of Planned Parenthood's nearly 700 clinics obtain fetal tissue for researchers seeking disease cures. She also fires back at the Center for Medical Progress project lead, David DeLayden, calling for him to be investigated as she says he tried unsuccessfully to entrap Planned Parenthood physicians and staff for nearly 3 years. So we'll keep an eye on that. Who's going to be the next Speaker of the House? Maybe Kevin McCarthy of California. Maybe Kevin McCarthy of California will step up and change the seat held by John Boehner. Let's hear what they have to say about that.
Well, as Speaker, the Speaker sets the culture. And the culture in Washington has to change. You know, we've been governing by crisis. And there's too many people in Washington who care about power institutions and don't care about making a difference in the lives of the average American. Look, it's not going to be easy to change this culture, and it won't happen overnight, but that's my mission. I believe in Reagan's 11th commandment. I believe we are a team. I believe everybody has a right to be part of the team. I'm not the manager, I'm the team captain. So we're all a part of it, and everybody has an opportunity to help change. We just have to come together and work in the same direction. We're going to start that tomorrow night with a conference, laying out our agenda.
So that Kevin McCarthy's on the way, that's for sure. And one last thing you need to know before we hit this next break here. If you didn't hear this already, what an incredible thing has happened on Mars. Water on Mars. Running water on Mars. During summer there. So maybe a holiday on Mars would be nice, but running water on Mars, hear this.
You know, when you look at Earth, water is an essential ingredient. And just about, well, not just about, everywhere we go where there's liquid water, whether it's deep in the Earth or in the arid regions, we find life. This is tremendously exciting. We haven't been able to answer the question, does life exist beyond Earth? But following the water is a critical element of that. We now have, I think, great opportunities to be in the right locations on Mars to thoroughly investigate that.
See, there you have it. We can all go to Mars, you know, after the global warming here destroys Earth, we can go to Mars because they'll have running water. And I actually think that's incredible, that after all these years and after all this research, they actually find running water on Mars, which I think is spectacular and fascinating on all levels. I think you will as well. It's Tuesday here on the Steve Gruber Show. We'll be right back.
Michigan, born and raised with Midwestern values and Michigan common sense.
I know you've deceived me, now here's a surprise.
Welcome back to the Steve Gruber Show on this Tuesday.
I know that you have...
The problems with the water quality in Flint making headlines not only around the state but across the country. Too much lead creating health hazards for children, pregnant women, and frankly for a lot of folks. And the question is, what do you do about it? The question is, what do you do about it? The governor being called on now to step in and get involved. Our next guest, Congressman Dan Kildee of Michigan's 5th District, Democrat from that district, joining me here on the program. Congressman, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
Now, what can you tell us about this? What do you know about the problem there and possible solutions? And honestly, how far back does it date?
Well, it looks like this dates in part back to the switch from the Detroit water system to a temporary use of Flint River water with the Flint Water Treatment Facility treating that water and delivering it to customers. All of that as a transition to use of the new Karagandhi pipeline, which is a direct pipeline from Lake Huron, which should go a long way in solving the problem. But I actually think it does go back a bit further. These old water systems in older cities have been allowed to atrophy for many, many years. And so when a situation like this switch to a temporary water source comes up, the problem is exacerbated. And what this has led to, of course, is what we see is data that indicates elevated lead levels, which is obviously completely unacceptable, and there needs to be action.
Well, it's
right
dangerous,
away.
Obviously. Yeah, it creates all sorts of problems, and obviously in developing brains for young children and pregnant mothers. Obviously, the problems with lead are well documented.
Right.
What do we do about it? That's the real question. What do we do about it now?
Well, I think that's a good question. My view is we need to act quickly to at least get temporary help to the people in Flint so that they don't have to rely on this water source until it can be determined the extent to which there is lead. And it seems to be that there is, but I frankly have been unimpressed with the level of testing that the local and state government has been doing. It just didn't seem robust. Immediately, I think we need to get water assistance to the people, especially those who have small children. Secondly, and quickly, filters delivered to those households. There are NSF-approved filters that can screen out lead and other contaminants while we work on, a more permanent solution. I spoke with the governor yesterday. I've been working with Senator Ananek, Representative Neely, the mayor, trying to come up with ways we can be helpful. I have asked the federal government, we've been in contact with the EPA and the Federal Emergency Management Agency to see what resources might be available. We just need to move quickly on the temporary solution, temporary water filters for the people who have small children in particular, especially those who have lead service lines, and then move to a more permanent solution until the Karagandhi water line is actually installed, which should be sometime next summer.
So we just need a bridge, if you will, to fresh water. I mean, I just think there's something that everybody can agree on. Fresh water is paramount, and not up for discussion.
It's fundamental to a civil society, being able to deliver water to its citizens. And it's
clearly.
I honestly have to say that I see this as a failure of government at every level, at the federal, at the state, and at the local level. And there's really no excuse for it, although this is not the time for recrimination. This is the time to focus on getting water to the people, and then we can have a serious conversation about how this happened.
We can do our investigation later. Right now, let's make sure that the water is fresh and safe for everybody, children, adults, the elderly, people that, some folks can run out and get themselves, replacement water. Those at the lower income brackets obviously have a bigger challenge, so that has to be addressed in the short run, I would say.
Exactly.
Let me ask you something else about water quality while we're talking about this. And we're on the line with Congressman Dan Kildee from Michigan's 5th District. Here just a few days ago, the two Michigan senators, Debbie Stabenow and Gary Peters, introduced legislation that would ban the shipping of oil in tankers on the Great Lakes. And I'm just wondering where you come down on that as we're talking about water quality. Obviously, the protection of the Great Lakes is paramount to all of us as well. But a call for a moratorium on all shipping of oil in the Great Lakes seems to be pretty aggressive, to say the least. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I have not looked at that legislation, to be honest with you, so I will withhold judgment until I get a chance to see it. I do understand the concern about the Great Lakes and drawing a line when it comes to what we do when we put the lakes at risk. I am, of course, of the view that there are ways to do to engage commerce and protect the environment simultaneously. It's not something that has to be mutually exclusive, but often that requires the imposition of relatively high standards and relatively strict enforcement. So I'll take a look at what the two senators have introduced, and if I think it makes sense and doesn't inhibit industry too dramatically, as long as it protects the lakes, I'll more than likely be helpful with it.
All right, Congressman. And one more thing, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you what's the latest on Amir Hekmati. Any word from what's going on with him, his family? What's the latest?
Well, there are continued discussions. I was encouraged. I spoke with Secretary Kerry last Thursday, and I actually was in New York at the United Nations when the Pope address the UN and was able to have a conversation with the Iranian Foreign Minister, Zarif. And I received basically the same assurances from both Secretary Kerry and Foreign Minister Zarif that they continue to work on this. And while that doesn't seem like progress, the fact that we're acknowledging conversations between U.S. and Iran regarding these Americans is a huge step forward. So we continue to have hope. I won't embrace that hope until I see Amir step off an airplane, but it is a step in the right direction.
You have little doubt, though, there will come a day you'll see that happen.
I believe it will happen. I look forward to it. I just pray to God that it's sooner rather than later, for the family's sake.
Well, I happen to agree with you on that. Congressman Dan Kildee, always a pleasure. I appreciate your time today. We'll keep an eye on what's going on in Flint very closely for the next few days. I appreciate you taking the time to stop in.
Thanks for having me on.
There you have it, everybody. Congressman Dan Kildee, Democrat, Michigan's 5th District. Lead in the water in Flint, obviously, a paramount concern, and other problems in other places around the state, but that's number one today. It's Tuesday on the Steve Gruber Show.
Covering Michigan and the world from his bunker below the bridge. Here is Steve Gruber.
Let me tell you how it
All righty, my friends, welcome back to it. It's Tuesday. Donald Trump comes out and rolls out a new plan on taxes that would eliminate taxes altogether from the federal government for some 31 million Americans. It would also lower taxes on the wealthy. And to me, it seems like he has found a new populist theme to power his campaign potentially. Here's what he had to say about it.
This is a plan that's simple, that's a major reduction. I think people are going to be very happy. We've already had some very good reviews. I did the plan with some of the leading scholars and economists and tax experts that there are in this country. They love it. They say, why hasn't this been done before? And this is my wheelhouse. That's what I do well. The economy is what I do well. Whenever they do polls, I always come out way above everybody else on the economy. And on leadership, by the way, but I won't say that.
He won't say that, of course. Our next guest, John Pollock, a tax and financial strategist, here to break down the Donald Trump plan. Mr. Pollock, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you, sir. All right, so you've heard what he has to say. 4 tax brackets, 0, 10, 20, and 25. For example, the highest earners in America, a couple that makes over $300,000 would pay 25%. But for most people, the highest tax bracket now is 39.6%, for example. That will come back. The corporate tax rate will come down to 15%. 31 million people won't pay any taxes at all. What do you make of it?
Actually, 31 million additional people won't pay taxes.
All right.
So there will be 100 million people not paying taxes. So that's probably the part about it I don't like, because I don't like people not paying taxes, because if they're not contributing, then they get stuff for free, and when you get stuff for free, you want more stuff for free.
That's the way it works.
Yeah, that's exactly the way it works. But overall, I love it. I mean, obviously, I'm going to have a direct benefit from it because my taxes are going to go down, so I'm all for it for there. But you know, we're a tax planning firm, so we have a vested interest in a complicated, messy tax code because we know how to lower the taxes in the current tax code. So a more simple tax code will be bad for our business, but it will be good for the U.S. economy, and I'm for helping the U.S. economy.
Well, certainly. So, okay, 100 million people don't pay taxes. Taxes go up in some places and not in other places. So you don't like the fact that 100 million people don't pay taxes. But so is there any merit in this? Because here's what I see here. I see a populist theme from Donald Trump, another populist theme. You know, he's already winning on the debate on immigration, clearly. But I mean, that's the one thing that has pushed his poll numbers to where they are. If he comes along with a plan that I saw yesterday, initial response, 69% of the people being asked, and there were a lot of people answering, were benefiting, they thought, from this tax plan. If somebody comes along with a plan that benefits 69% of the American people, that person will become president.
Yeah, so this is where he is really, really good. I mean, the guy is a master marketer. He didn't spend any time on the stuff that actually will help the economy. He basically spent time on the stuff that helps individual people. The reduction of the corporate tax, he kind of slid over, which is really good for the economy because corporations don't pay taxes, people do, so they just pass those costs on to the individual anyways. But there's billions of dollars overseas that aren't being brought back into the country because the taxes are so high here. We have one of the highest corporate tax rates in the world. So businesses are moving.
So I want to stop you right there because it fascinates me. I know you're right, and I know we pay these incredibly high corporate tax rates, and yet if you tell a liberal that, they'll tell you that, oh, they cut this, they get away with that, they don't pay anything. Corporations in America don't pay anything. I know my companies pay through the teeth. My small companies pay a lot in taxes, but you can't tell somebody on the left that.
Well, there are certain types of corporate structures, which he's picked on, actually. The hedge funds, the way they do their interest carry, they create these very, very sophisticated organizations that need lots of lawyers and lots of accountants to run. But if the tax is 35% versus 0, it's worth it to spend the money on the accountants and the lawyers. We've got major corporations moving from entire states. I'm in Texas, and we're the net receiver of Toyota, State Farm. They're moving here to save 8% in state taxes. So what do corporations do to save 20% in corporate taxes? They leave stuff overseas. So, and another thing that drives me nuts about this discussion is every single time someone reduces the tax rates across the board, like what Trump is proposing, is revenue goes up to the Treasury every single time. When the Democrats did it with Kennedy, revenue went up. When Reagan did it, it went up for a couple decades. But lower taxes help the economy. Business owners like myself that are in the highest tax brackets, not because I make the money, it's because I have an S-Corp, and on December 31st, whatever's in my bank account gets taxed, which takes away from me being able to do other things with it, like grow my business.
Right, but my accountant still tells me S-Corp is the best way to go currently. I don't know. I mean, we have these discussions all the time. My accountant and I, because I look at the tax, I say, is there a better way? And he says,
for
not
our
really.
clients, we split it. We do an S and a C.
Now, how do you do that?
You do two corporations, and then you pay. See, this is the type of stuff no one knows exists in the marketplace. But so what you would do is you would pay a management fee to the C corporation. The C corporation will allow you to pay only 15% on retained earnings. So you can retain $50,000 a year up to $250,000 over 5 years. So there are some ways to still play games, but simplifying the code is going to eliminate those games. We play them for our clients, and our clients pay, objectively, most of our clients pay less taxes now under Obama than they did under Bush because they had pain and they wanted to solve the pain. But I'm for a simpler tax code. I don't care what it does to my business. I'm an entrepreneur. I'll adapt. I'll be fine. But I want a simpler tax code. I want a robust, on-fire U.S. economy.
Yeah, you are you're a risk taker, and so you're going to do that no matter what happens. You're going to take it on, and you're like me.
Yeah, I really don't care what I usually don't watch the news unless someone's going to interview me. Then I'm going to have to catch up on stuff. Because the attitude I have is regardless of what's thrown, I get one vote just like you, and whatever's thrown at me, I'm going to adapt to it. I was despondent when Obama got elected. I'm obviously right-leaning, but I got out of bed the next morning, I went to work, and I built an entire company around the mess that he created, and most of our clients are paying less taxes now than they did under Bush. So they love us.
And so hold on. If that's true, and I guess that's being reflected. You mentioned how the revenue is going up. I think we just set back-to-back all-time records for the amount of money collected by the Internal Revenue Service. So I guess there is a cause and effect there, even if it's an unintended consequence. There it is. And if we lower tax again, whether it's under Donald Trump's plan or somebody else's plan, revenues are going to go up. If it helps the individual and it helps the companies, it should help the economy, although you still don't like 100 million people getting a free ride.
Yes, I still don't like 100 million people getting a free ride, but if he does something, which he won't talk about this probably until after the election, he'll have to do something with the earned income credit, because those are tax eaters. They don't pay any money in, and they actually take money out. They actually get a refund for stuff they never did.
Well, it's a welfare plan. I mean, you can call it whatever you want. It's welfare, period. I mean, when people are getting $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 back that they never paid into the system, that's a government check. And when you get a government check for your lifestyle, we call that welfare, where I came from. You can call it whatever you want.
Well, the funny
I'll give you the last word on it, John.
My son gets it. I mean, he goes to school. He files his tax return every year from his waiting job as he goes to school, and he gets a check back, and he doesn't pay in what he gets back. What? So it's
Guess
still
your son's on welfare like everybody else. I'll give you
out.
20 seconds for the last word.
Yeah. more money in the economy, both on the business and on consumer side, is going to drive the economy. That's good.
Well, John, I greatly appreciate it. Good conversation. Tax and financial strategist. Will Donald Trump's plan appeal to the masses? We'll find out. It's Tuesday on the Steve Gruber Show. We'll be right back.
Keeping you in touch with Michigan and the world.
All right, welcome back to it. 45 after the hour. I need to get to the bottom of something, so I had to have Dan Kish in here, the Senior Vice President at the Institute for Energy Research. Dan, welcome back.
Thank you, Steve. Good morning.
You've been on vacation for a while or something. Mm-hmm.
No, we just haven't talked. I wish I had been on vacation. I've just been, watching the madness like everybody else.
Well, there you go. All right, so riddle me this, Batman. How is it that I'm paying $2.50 a gallon for gasoline and oil's still, way down at, very low levels in the 40s still? Why am I still paying so much?
Well, it varies from place to place around the country. I can't tell you exactly. Is that what you're doing, $2.50?
Yeah, right now. And, the last time oil was this low, we were paying $1.80. I'm confused.
Yeah. Well, you had a problem. You had a problem with a refinery that feeds a lot of y'all in Indiana, but I think that's been taken care of. So I don't know.
That's been weeks ago. Yeah, I don't know. We're just, I just feel like, no matter which way we turn, and of course they want to raise taxes on gasoline here and everywhere else because, gas is low, so it's time to jump in and throw more taxes on the pile. But
right.
Let me ask you about this.
I think you're going to see lower prices, but anyway.
Well, I hope you're right. Lower prices temporarily until they can tack more taxes on, of course.
Well, that's you guys just dodge a bullet because you were able to vote on it, but they'll figure out some other way.
Well, exactly. We just had a study released here on the program from Utah State University saying real personal income has fallen by $15 billion. That happened in 2013. Each family here in Michigan making about $4,000 less per year. Non-farm employment has fallen. The state's unemployment rate is up by 10%, 25,000 people not with jobs in Michigan, all related to the renewable portfolio standards, better known as windmills and solar panels here in the state. And yet, we could look at lessons like states from California and elsewhere that continue to punish themselves financially with out-of-control energy costs, and it seems like we don't learn anything by watching.
Well, there's a disconnect, and frankly, folks ought to look at themselves in the mirror here. One of the things that we find out is that by polling and focus groups is that Americans respond to pollsters by saying that they really like this renewable energy stuff, wind and solar. Obviously, they aren't asked if they also like the higher prices that go with it. But listen, we've talked about this before. Germany pays 3 times as much for their electricity as we do. So take your electric bill, triple it, and that's where we're headed because that's what they're doing over there. That's what they've decided to do, and at some point, people have got to wake up. Just because something sounds good, just because a pet rock is on sale and it looks cute, and you think it might, doesn't mean you invest your fortune in it and make your life dependent upon the sale of pet rocks, and that's what's going on.
Well, now the guy that invented pet rocks, that guy did well, but after that, not so much.
Well, usually that's the way it is. That's what Tom Steyer is doing. This billionaire that's running around. He was sitting with Nancy Pelosi when the Pope was addressing Congress because he's decided to make all his money on green energy, so he wants to make another $1 billion there.
Well, he is making his money on green energy and pounding these regulations down the throats of the rest of the world, telling it's for our own good. He's here to save the planet, is Tom Steyer. Yeah. He's here to say that green is good. Well, the only green he's concerned about is the green that he's folding up and stuffing in his pocket.
Well, and Steve, in addition, our politicians, they seem to go along with this stuff without questioning. How would you go into a business? How would you go into a business, for example, in Michigan and decide that, well, I'm just going to take the more expensive forms of energy and use them to make my products and somehow compete with my the folks who are trying to do something without doing that. And that's when your government officials actually do this and they just mouth this pap it's time to, give them a wake-up call. The fact of the matter is this country's growth is just stagnating, and yet energy prices and electric prices are going up. Something is wrong.
Well, and we've come to this conclusion long ago, but when the government is involved with picking winners and losers, some may win, some may lose, but I guarantee you this, the taxpayer always loses. Always. I mean, look how badly we did on General Motors. Look how badly we've done on other, investments by the government. We don't even stand a chance.
Well, ultimately, when the government decides who's going to win and who's going to lose, in essence, those decisions are made in places like Washington and Lansing, and the people who have the most access to those people make those decisions. When you and I make them, you and I make good and bad decisions all the time, and there are 300-plus million people in this country who do the same thing. What we do is we learn from our neighbors and our friends. Oh, gee, that makes sense. Hey, that's a way to save energy. That makes economic sense. But when the government does it, it's because of political connections, whether it's Tom Steyer or the local utility, and in the case of Michigan, and that's what we have to guard against. And that's why people have to give up this really crazy abiding belief that somehow people in the government are smarter than we are. That's what you're agreeing to when you say, hold on. Sort it out.
I don't have that belief, Dan.
Oh, I know, but you and I both know that this
right
is
there.
Half the stuff that they teach in the schools. These people are smart. They've got experts. I live in Washington, D.C. I've told you before, these people are no smarter than anybody who's listening to your radio station. In fact, most of them couldn't find their way to the bathroom.
Well, and there's no question about that. They could because their entourage would get them there. They've got, their people. But them on their own, without a teleprompter, without cue cards, without notes, good luck, good Lord.
Well, that's right. They're good at getting nice-looking haircuts and going on TV. But beyond that, when it comes to really making important decisions, the people that ought to make those decisions are the people sitting around their living room tables and figuring out the family budget, not some person who thinks he's smarter than everyone else.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of arrogance and a lot of narcissism up there, my friend.
There is
Dan,
indeed, but you've got
don't be such a stranger. Yeah, don't be such a stranger, my friend. Dan Kish, everybody, greatly appreciate it, Dan.
Thanks, Steve.
He is the senior vice president of the Institute for Energy Research. It's Tuesday on the Steve Gruber Show. Welcome to it.